I'm George Samios. I'm head teacher at Twerton Infant School in Bath, which is a great privilege. I'm very proud of the school, proud of the children, and proud of the way that staff work with children, which we've been able to do really well because we've had sufficient funding. But I'm really worried because already that is changing. This year we have a shortfall in funding of around £70,000 compared to last year. This has meant that we've had to cut back on counselling for the most vulnerable children in the school. We've had to cut back on training for teachers and TAs. We have had to cut back on the parent support advisor role, which has been a crucial role, working alongside families early on when problems first arise. And we've had to cut back on enrichment activities. We can't get a theatre group in to do a panto this year because we can't justify that cost. We've had to cut back on some sports scholarship. But my real anxiety about the cuts, and these are real term cuts to school funding, 8% less funding now compared to 8 years ago. The IFS have proved that in a report recently, and that for us is £80,000 less in our budget. What this means is that when we identify a child that has additional needs that aren't being met through the first wave of teaching provision, we will no longer be able to employ a TA to work with that child until we have secured the funding. Now that process can take 6 months, and that's not a timescale that we set, that's just what the SEND process is. So, if you have a child in a classroom whose needs aren't being met and their behaviour isn't regulated, that has a knock-on effect to the rest of the class, and that impacts on the rest of the class. That can affect the rest of the children, their right to learn, their right to be safe and to feel safe in class. Now, in the short term, our staff will do everything that they possibly can. They're already at capacity, working beyond their contracted hours, beyond their job descriptions. In the short term, they will make sure that children's needs are met. But it is simply wrong to continue to underfund schools and to expect hard-working, stretched staff to do more with less resources. It is unfair, and it will have a consequence on those staff, on their mental health and on their well-being. Now for children whose needs aren't being met, inevitably that is going to lead to a rise in exclusions in schools, and in fact it's already happened. The BBC just this week have reported a 15% increase in permanent exclusions this last year compared to the year before. That's 1,035 extra children in the last 12 months that were excluded permanently from schools than in the previous 12 months. That figure is only going to increase unless we can continue to intervene early and meet children's needs when they first arrive.